Okay, so here we go. The plot, as it falls out, is Security Chief Odo places El Orion, Martus Mazur, in a holding cell after accusing him of swindling aboard Deep Space Nine. While in his cell, Martus acquires a gambling device that alters the laws of probability after his cellmate, an old man named Cos, dies. His look changes, and he is released from confinement after the elderly couple he conned decide not to press charges. With his new and intriguing device, he sets up a bar and casino with larger versions of the original device as gambling machines. The bar is a success and draws business away from Quark's bar. The device soon turns on him, however, and he is himself conned into losing a large sum of money. In addition, the couple he swindled out of money change their mind and press charges against him. Meanwhile, Miles O'Brien attempts to get in shape so that he can compete with Julian Bashir at racquetball. Well-known sci-fi name there for a sport. Part of a ploy to regain lost business for the bar, Quark is able to trick O'Brien and Bashir into participating in a public tournament that people can bet on. When O'Brien performs abnormally well, harsh, he realizes that there are statistical abnormalities on the station. The crew discover the effect of the device in Martis' establishment, and O'Brien and Bashir agree to cancel the rest of the game. To prevent more tampering with natural probability, Cisco and Dax destroy the devices. End of summary. Not end of the episode. It really kind of absolute. That was a really
Mm.
bare bones summary, but there
Oh.
it is. So, for those of us joining for the first time, good evening, welcome. Thank you very much. After we've done the summary, we tend to go in with kind of thoughts off the top. I've just spoken unbroken for about 5 minutes. So, Kat, why don't you give us some initial impressions, please?
I really enjoyed the episode. I think especially after the last episode's relatively heavy
Mm,
sanctuary that had a lot of political implications, which were tricky to talk around. This one's just really light-hearted. The plot's really well constructed to bring the
mm,
different elements of it. The racquetball playing, which is happening at the start of the episode, with the guy who's down on his luck, whose luck improves, and then everyone on the station getting involved. It's all really well constructed. So the story makes good sense, playing out fairly quickly. It hits
mm.
all the right emotional beats, so you've got all the little dramatic rises and falls, people having odd misfortunes, yeah, I think it's really well constructed. I think that televised comedy can be very tricky to do, but this
Mm.
is a really well put together script, and it plays out nicely. It's a good mix of a novel idea and the characters as we know them. I think all the main characters that get involved, they're very much in character. I think the show is really hitting its stride in terms of what the cast are like and how they interact with each other. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I think it's never going to be a favourite necessarily. It doesn't have anything that particularly appeals. It doesn't have Garak in it.
Wouldn't he be
We've got another,
brilliant in this?
another 7 episodes before we get Garak back. Flipping heck.
Is it that long?
Um,
God.
but other than not having my favourite gay space
Mm.
was, isn't it? It's very good. I enjoyed it. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, very, very similar. Very similar. We were talking during the setup about the Star Trek whiplash effect when they will take you from a very harrowing, hard story straight into haha novelty bottle episode, and you kind of have to get used to that. So yes, it was a nice change after last week. What I took from last week into this was the same basic concept really, which is there is a sort of half realized concept in this being the kind of probability altering devices and the nature of competition and rivalry, which I don't think the episode really developed super well. And instead, this episode, like Sanctuary, relies a hell of a lot on excellent characterizations. There are great stories, great pieces, great sequences for the characters involved, but once you drill down to what the hell are these devices, where did this sport come from? Will we ever see it again? Spoiler, of course not. You
Yeah.
know, there are so many really paper thin elements to this story, this episode, that if it wasn't for the fact that the comedy lands so well time after time, this would be an absolute shambles of an episode.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. The MacGuffin really is a MacGuffin, and it's one that would, if
Really
you
is.
take the actual implications of it, it's world breaking. You could destroy so many worlds with this object.
Right, thank you
Um,
again. This came casually during the setup where me and Kat realised that if you were to actually understand how the device worked, you could weaponize it to terrifying. This is apocalyptic level. If you could rain nothing but unluck down on your enemy, That would be
But
horrendous.
they're extremely careful to use the phrase minor injuries a few times in the episode, just to emphasize no one's really getting hurt, no one's in any danger, it's okay, don't feel stressed about this. But yeah, if you suddenly made someone's look uniformly bad, they could die extremely quickly.
Horrendously,
And
horrendously.
they do not want to go there. It's a light-hearted episode, so the threat only matches what the writers wanted it to, rather than what it would actually represent in world.
That is exactly it. Absolutely. The whole station's affected by the end because of these, what I think, 5 devices in one room. So it will be very hard to scale this thing up to affect planets, star systems. You know, a bad luck Death Star would be a hell of a thing to, perceive floating into view above your planet, and then immediately all of your toast lands butter side down. You know what? Around the planet. You know, it's
Yeah,
just horrendous
fuck
concept.
yes.
So the upshot of that ramble is that the core concept is bizarre, laughable, and not brilliant, but the delivery of everything through this episode absolutely hits. And I think this is where Deep Space Nine is at its best, when it gives you good characterization. Everyone interacts naturally. Nothing feels forced. Everything
Yes.
flows. Even the guest star, William Sarandon, I think, who plays Martus.
Chris Sarandon, yeah.
Chris Sarandon, thank you. He fits in very nicely into the dynamic. Everything goes. All I would have wanted was a bit longer for everyone, but everyone gets like a beat, except for I think Jake and Nog don't appear in this episode.
Ah, yeah.
But everyone,
which is a shame, because they could have had a really nice little back and forth,
brilliant,
having bad luck while playing a game against each
right?
other.
That would have been fantastic.
But yeah, there's only so much space though to let all the characters breathe.
And
so.
Deep Space Nine has a lot of characters, so that is always going to be a stumbling block. So yeah, that saves it for me. That takes what could have been a terrible episode and turns it into a really enjoyable one. Yeah,
and that's it for tonight, folks. Bye.
See you next time.
We're back in ops, and Dax has discovered something about solar neutrinos. For Kira's response, the script says, Kira hasn't got any idea, but she gives it the old college try, the meaning of which is obvious in context, but for fellow Brits, it refers to giving one's best efforts. Apparently, it arose in the context of US college sports. So when you give someone the old college try, it means you don't really have the resources to hand, but you're going to try anyway.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I didn't know that.
And on screen, Kira and Cisco briefly share a glance and a smile, which is just a little unscripted interaction, just the two of them acknowledging that she doesn't know what she's talking about, because Dax's point is the neutrinos on screen, and Kira says, there's a lot of them.
I like it because they've done this before, where they've subtly indicated that Kira is not very scientifically minded, because at the end of the day, she's a practical military officer, former resistance fighter. She hasn't had the academy training that someone like Dax, who is a brilliant scientist, has had. So I like it. It doesn't in any way diminish her. It's just a nice corrective, which is, well, this person doesn't know as much, and is in the same position as us, the audience, which is, here's another Star Trek screen full of science stuff that I just don't get, and I'm waiting for someone smart like Spock or Data or Dax to tell me what the fuck I'm looking at. So
but she's willing to try and carry on the conversation. When Dax pauses, she's like, "Oh, better say something." Oh, it's really sweet.
I loved it.
But yes, Dax has discovered that where about half of the solar neutrinos should be spinning clockwise and half anti-clockwise, over 80% of them are actually spinning clockwise, whereas outside the station, the neutrinos are normal. But inside, something strange is clearly going on. And from Memory Alpha, author and theoretical physicist Lauren Krauss points out that neutrinos can only exist in a specific spin state, either the left-handed spin state or the right-handed spin state, which is anti-neutrinos. So Dax couldn't have discovered a statistically unlikely left-handed alignment of whirling neutrinos, but science advisor Andre Bormanis said of this error, "This was a mistake on my part. I thought neutrinos had multiple spin states like other subatomic particles, and I didn't double-check." Physicists published a paper in which they suggested the inclusion of 6 additional particles to the current standard model used to describe subatomic physics, and 3 of these would be neutrinos with a right-handed spin state, but it's a different kind of particle. It's not, The science guy tried and didn't bother to pick up his in-depth science encyclopedia and got it wrong. But it's fantasy Star Trek.
I was going to say,
it's a good luck machine. We don't expect the science to be precise.
My suspension of disbelief was not shattered at this moment, but I love how in depth the Memory Alpha people went on this. Like, okay, let's find out some more about this. Andre,
Could this happen?
what happened with the solar neutrinos, man? And he's like, what, in the episode with the luck machine? This is your problem. I got my subatomic particles slightly wrong. I'll be honest, if you had have told me that whole thing was made up, I wouldn't have known any better. And I consider myself somebody.
Do neutrinos exist? Who knows? Who cares? Star
I've
Trek.
Lawrence Krauss, the guy they quote there, wrote a book called The Science of Star Trek. I've got it on a shelf behind me. So
Oh.
I've read Lawrence Krauss's stuff, and I did not know any of this. So look, all I'm saying is, like, Andrei Bormanis, the science advisor, man, take it easy. It's all right. Seriously,
It's all
only
good.
nerds
It's
on
fine.
Wikipedia worry about this. And us. Hello.
But yes, the neutrinos themselves are not causing the problem. Dax thinks the neutrinos are a symptom of the same problem that's causing mishaps around the station. And I think it's a reasonable metric. They just look
Yeah.
for something that sounds sciencey, that reflects
It works.
probabilistic change.
Yeah, it
Because
works.
it's not fantasy, it's meant to be science fiction.
Mhm.
So, as you say, the good luck machine is going to have its basis in science, one way or another. Back at the racquetball court, O'Brien scores the first point. We've got a picture of the patrons and quarks watching on a view screen.
Do. There we go.
Yeah, crowded around,
Mm.
staring up at. I think the screen has been installed just for this moment. We can usually see the full stained glass display behind it. But yeah, it's good. I like that they show us what the viewing audience can see rather than just showing it from our point of view inside the room.
Yeah,
And then, sorry, Tim.
I was just gonna say it's a nice kind of change from when I think TNG has tried to show us like cultural events where everybody just kind of like crowds into 10 forward or the conference lounge, and it's all a
Yeah.
bit like, you know, crap naff office party where you just but I still feel like I'm at work, but now you're showing me something weird. Which I always found a bit of a letdown on TNG, where Deep Space Nine's like, we've got a bar, and guess
Fine,
what?
actually.
The bar's got a big
Yeah.
screen for sports now, and I'm like, well, personally, I wouldn't enjoy that. This is a nice change from how Star Trek normally does.
Yeah, because in TNG, 10 forward is like the only place people can go to, apart from the holodecks, is the only place people go to unwind, and
Yep.
all the fucking ceremonies are held there. If there's a
Yep.
visiting ambassador, they go to
Yep.
10 forward. Yeah, you're right. They're really bringing the workplace into people's private lives. That's not okay. I'm glad DS9 is a bit more casual about where everything goes on.
Agreed. Thank you, Kat.
We've then got some pictures of Bashir having very bad luck. His racket flies in half when he hits the ball, which is really nicely done on screen. Siddig genuinely hits the ball with his racket, which then the end of it just flies off from his hand. So he's presumably carefully been balancing it in his hand such that it's sitting properly, and then it just into the distance.
And it's just.
And his facial expressions are so
Aren't they
precious.
brilliant? Aren't they brilliant? What a beautiful pair of scenes right next to each other there. I mean, this man was made to be memed. Just made to be memed.
He really was.
Oh.
It's surprising he's not done more comedy because he's really well.
Yeah.
He's just really good at it. He's really good at all the physical movement that's needed. He's got the facial expressions. He's perfect for this kind of episode.
Absolutely.
It's pitch perfect. The bad guy's got his comeuppance. The woman who's been conning him, we find out that he was being scammed throughout, which is so satisfying. Quark gets to be extra smug about that.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. No one got seriously injured. There are a few people with sprains. There were no stakes in this episode at all, beyond possibly O'Brien and Bashir not having a better friendship than they already do. But yeah, it's lovely. It's just a joyful episode to watch, and so it's light-hearted from the last episode, if that's all you're looking for. And there's so many fine details to enjoy if you want them to go a bit deeper.
I would absolutely agree. The only last niggling thing I have is if Martis is having charges pressed against him, is he not going to be sent off to face those charges? Why does Quark
That's a really good point. Oh, and one other thing.
Yeah.
What happened to the original unit? Because the larger versions were destroyed. Presumably Marta still has the toy. But they could have done a kind of shock scene at the end with just kind of Marta's just taking it out going, But they didn't. They just kind of forgot it existed.
Yep. Forgot that there was no need to pay Marta to leave the station because he was about to be indicted for crimes he's actually committed that he naturally needs to face charges on. But It's fine. You know, there was a theme to this episode. They had the set points that they wanted to land, and much like how this episode returns to the beginning, I'm going to return to the beginning and review and say this reminds me a lot of Sanctuary, where there were clear set points that the writers wanted to hit, but in Sanctuary, where they didn't give it enough meat to get there, Rivals is all meat with no actual consistency to it itself. The whole meal doesn't make any sense, but there's plenty of really tasty bits in it. So
Yes.
there you go. So yeah. So I also came away loving the component parts of this episode. They were just great because they gave characters we are still getting to know loads to do. And the comedy was perfectly timed and scripted, which is hard to do. Is really hard to do in Star Trek, which is quite unwieldy when it comes to
Yeah.
comedy previously. The original series and TNG have tried, and there are some good, funny episodes, but not
But
not
there's
to
also The
memory.
Naked Now,
Oh
and
Jesus God, Bennett. Yes, that is.
well, I was like, wasn't that like the second or
Yeah,
third because there were two parts to Farpoint, but second episode, fucking TNG, and it's The Naked Man, and Tasha's fucking an android.
wow,
Oh,
wow,
God.
wow, wow. I mean, but
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
When they get comedy wrong, they get it wrong. Um,
Great meme content though. I mean, the amount of data entry jokes I see on Star Trek ship posting are just,
but I
they
also
love
love
it.
that in the fucking. But in The Measure of a Man, they bring it back fucking seriously. They're like, no, this is evidence that Data is human because he has strong, fond memories of this woman who he fucked once in a situation where they were both high on space magic. I just love that they lean
Oh,
into it. They don't pretend it didn't
oh,
happen, which is
yeah,
important and
yeah,
very fun. But
absolutely.
anyway, yes, this is a really well done comedy episode, and
Yes.
it didn't. I just keep coming back to the fact it didn't have to be. It could have been much slighter
Mhm,
than it was. There
mhm.
could have been a lot less effort thrown into it. Everyone could just have taken a week off and bar the bits where people are having to play sport. They could just have phoned it in, but instead they
Mhm.
found delightful detail in every aspect of it. And I love them for that. It's not an episode that's going to change anyone's life, I don't
No,
think, but it's
no.
so enjoyable.
I would actually say that if they had tried to amp this episode up and make it more of a drama and less of a comedy, more of a drama with just like slight comic elements, it would have really fallen flat. And actually, I think we would have really
Yeah.
not enjoyed it. So what the saving grace is that this episode absolutely doesn't take itself seriously, which means I am willing to look past the glaring plot holes and go, you know what? I just had fun watching this. It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Indoor Cat says it's a nice fluffy episode. They're absolutely right. It is. It's fun. It doesn't change the world as you say, but it's fun. It's enjoyable. Sometimes that's all you can hope for, in a world of sanctuaries or vortexes, It could have been so much worse.
Yeah, it could have been an absolutely dreadful episode, but instead it's beautiful in its every aspect, and they really got the balance right between the new character coming in and the
Hmm.
action around him, and
Hmm.
having real impactful emotional things happen for the existing cast.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Yay. Cool. Right. I think we've said all we could there. Sarah Orange in chat. Tim's review. It could have been terrible. Thank you, Sarah. That is exactly a good part of my
Oh my
review.
God, we should totally tout this podcast by decontextualizing a really weird quote from each episode
I am
and just advertising each
intrigued.
episode with that
Yeah.
alone.
I am intrigued. Okay, put some thought into that, and when I put the
Yeah.
episode on YouTube, I will
Let's
fix
make
this
use
again.
of the drunken horrors.
Brilliant, Kat. Is there anything I have not given you a chance to say?
I don't think so. As I say, my only real regret is that Garak isn't in it. Garak won't be in it until episode 18 of this
Is
season.
that
We're on
how far
episode
off it?
11.
God damn. Right.
God,
All the
but it
more.
does mean that it's going to get more Garak heavy later on.
Mm,
I think there are 30 or so Garak episodes in total. So it's been
something
really
like
Garak
that.
light. It's been like homeopathic amount of Garak so far. Just like drop him in a couple of scenes. That'll be enough. Later on, I'm hoping to overdose on Garak. I need more.
Oh, that's a nice way to look at it. I like that. I'm also thinking that is the 30th episode, 30. So we've just hit a bit of a landmark there. 30
Oh,
episodes of
wow.
Deep Space Nine. So
Over
yay us.
however year and however
Just
long it's
just don't
taken.
don't think about that number. Don't think it's just not worth thinking about that number.
Oh, it's just real time ticking by.
Yes, worry about that later. Um, Great. Okay, so we will hopefully return in a couple of weeks' time with the alternate, which is an Odo episode.
Oh, yay.
So we have that to look forward to.
It better not be like Vortex.
I mean, no spoilers. We're just gonna have to see. And it's been a while since we've torn an episode to shreds, so let's see what it brings. I will just thank, as always, Lieutenant Indoor Cap for their great assistance in being our moderator, and to all of you in chat for just pitching in with all of your mad comments. It's greatly appreciated, and it's lovely to have you along with us. Hopefully see you in a couple of weeks' time.
See you then.
Take care, live long, and prosper. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.